My husband chose my 45th birthday to announce the sale of our house. When he said his new girlfriend needs a bigger place for her kids, I silently handed him the envelope that would ruin his perfect plan. The waiter had just cleared the appetizer plates when Brad's phone vibrated for the 7th time that evening. I watched him through the flickering candles in the center of our table. The luxurious restaurant Bellucci sparkled with crystal chandeliers and gold decor. His face lit up with a smile I hadn't seen in months. At least, not for me. "Brad, can you put away your phone for my birthday?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light, though inside everything was tightened with hurt. "The kids traveled a long way for this evening." "Sorry, Martha, it's important," he muttered, his fingers typing quickly. Tyler, our son, cleared his throat. "Dad, seriously? We gathered the whole family for the first time in a year, and you can't look up from your phone even on Mom's birthday?" "It's okay, honey." I placed a hand on Tyler's shoulder. "Dad is very busy at work." "No, Mom, it's not okay." My daughter Emma's eyes flashed. "Dad, you made us come to this fancy restaurant on a Friday night. Tyler canceled an important meeting, I took time off, and now you're not even participating in the conversation?" Brad finally put down the phone, his face flushed. "I'm here. I'm with you. Let's enjoy the evening." "Great idea." I smiled, raising my glass of champagne. "To family." The restaurant was bustling on a Friday night, the hum of conversations, clinking glasses, and quiet piano music creating the perfect backdrop for a family celebration. I spent hours choosing this place, with its exquisite menu and romantic ambiance, reminiscent of the restaurant where Brad proposed to me almost a quarter of a century ago. "Mom, you look stunning," Emma said, squeezing my hand across the table. "This age suits you." "Thank you, dear." I ran my hand over the new dress, navy blue, off the shoulder, which I bought specifically for this evening. Brad didn't even notice it when we left the house. The waiter brought our main courses: filet mignon for Brad, scallops for me, steak for Tyler, and mushroom risotto for Emma. "Remember, Dad," Tyler began, cutting into his steak, "how we celebrated Mom's 40th birthday? You rented an entire beach, invited all her friends, and organized a surprise party. Mom cried with happiness." I noticed Brad tense. That day was from a different era, when my husband still looked at me as if I were the center of his universe. "Times change," Brad mumbled, sipping wine. "What does that mean?" Emma asked, her fork frozen midway to her mouth. Brad's phone vibrated again. He glanced at it quickly, and I saw his face change, a mix of impatience, excitement, and guilt. "Brad," my voice was quiet but firm. "Not today, please." He silenced the phone but placed its screen up next to his plate. I saw the name Nicole flash on the screen before it went dark. "Mom, tell us about the new project at your gallery." Emma tried to change the subject, sensing the growing tension. I started describing the exhibition of local artists I was curating, but I noticed Brad wasn't listening. His leg nervously jerked under the table, his eyes constantly returning to the darkened screen of the phone. "You know," he suddenly said, interrupting my story, "I have news too." My heart sank. I knew this tone, confident, businesslike, with a hint of impatience, the tone he used when making decisions without me. "Brad," I placed my hand on his wrist. "Maybe not now. Let's just enjoy the dinner." He shook off my hand, straightened his shoulders, and sat up as he did before important presentations. "I'm selling the house." The silence that followed these words was deafening. Emma froze with her wine glass to her lips. Tyler slowly put down the knife and fork. What? Emma's voice trembled. Our home? The house we grew up in? Don't worry, I've already found a great option, Brad continued, as if discussing a change of coffee brand. 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a big backyard, great schools nearby. Why do we need 5 bedrooms? Tyler asked, his voice tense. Emma and I moved out long ago. You and Mom need only 1. They're not for us. Brad avoided my gaze, focusing on our son instead. Nicole and her kids need more space. Jack is now 8, Jaden is 6, and little Lily just turned 4. They're growing fast, and her apartment is too small. Emma's glass clanged loudly as she set it down, spilling wine on the white tablecloth. Nicole? She echoed, her voice rising an octave. Who the hell is Nicole? Several patrons at nearby tables turned in our direction. I placed a hand on my daughter's shoulder, trying to calm her, though inside I was boiling. Emma, please, I whispered. Let's not make a scene. No, Mom! Emma pulled away. Let Dad explain who Nicole is and why he's selling our house for her. Brad cleared his throat, adjusted his tie. In the bright chandelier light, I noticed beads of sweat on his forehead. Nicole is my... He paused, as if choosing his words carefully. My partner. We've been together for 8 months. Tyler slowly lifted his gaze from his plate. Partner? You mean your lover? I would prefer different terminology. Brad grimaced. Your mom and I. We haven't had that kind of relationship in a long time. I sat silently, watching my children's world collapse. Seeing their father, a man they trusted implicitly, turn into a stranger before their eyes. Does Mom know? Tyler's voice was dangerously calm. Does Mom know you're selling her house for your... partner? Brad finally looked at me, a strange mix of defiance and defense in his eyes, as if expecting me to break down, beg, or scream, give him a reason to look rational against my hysteria. I was going to discuss it with Mom after dinner, he said. But since we're talking about it... Martha, you understand we need to move on. The house is too big for you alone. For me alone? Emma nearly shouted. What are you talking about, Dad? We're divorcing, Brad said as casually as announcing a change in the weather. I thought you guessed. Tyler's face turned pale. Guess? When the hell were we supposed to guess? When you invited us to Mom's birthday? When you wrote in the family chat how important it was for us all to be together? Slowly, I rose from the table, feeling all eyes turn to me. My hands didn't shake as I opened my small evening bag and pulled out the cream envelope. Brad, I said calmly, since you're making announcements on my birthday, let me add something of my own. I placed the envelope in front of him, right on the wine stain that had spread across the tablecloth following Emma's emotional reaction. What is this? He looked confused. His confidence faltered for the first time that evening. Open it, I suggested, returning to my seat and raising my champagne glass. To new beginnings. Brad's fingers hovered over the envelope as if it might bite. The confident businessman, who had just announced the sale of our family home and divorce, vanished, replaced by a man who looked genuinely frightened. What's in there, Mom? Tyler's voice was soft when addressing me. A surprise for your father. I smiled, but the smile didn't reach my eyes. I think he should read it himself. Brad slowly took the envelope, feeling its weight. He turned it around, examining the seal. I had written his name in my neat cursive, the same handwriting with which I signed birthday cards and anniversary notes more than 2 decades. but it felt different. Definitive.
Maybe you should read it later?
He tried to set the envelope aside, but I shook my head. No, Brad. Now. You made your announcement. Now it's my turn. Under our children's watchful eyes, he slowly opened the envelope. I watched as his face changed, from curiosity to confusion, then to shock, and finally to panicked realization.
This,
he stammered, rereading the documents.
This is impossible.
What's in there, Dad? Emma persisted, leaning in to try to see the papers. Brad looked up at me with a mix of rage and fear.
You transferred the house to your name? When? How?
I sipped the champagne, savoring the moment.
3 months ago.
It's amazing how many documents go unread when you're busy building a new family with someone else's children.
Did you forge my signature?
His voice shook with anger.
Not at all.
I shook my head. If you look closely at the second page, you'll see your signature. The real one. You signed the documents when I asked you to refinance. Remember that evening in March? You were so busy texting Nicole that you didn't even glance at what you were signing. Brad's face turned ashen.
You knew?
About Nicole? I shrugged. Of course I knew. For several months now. Brad's phone vibrated again. On the screen, a message appeared that we could all read. Darling, have you told them? The realtor called. We need to make a decision by the end of the weekend. Emma made a noise resembling a sob. God, Dad, you actually plan to sell the house this weekend? Mom's house? Our house?
Emma, you don't understand,
Brad began, but Tyler interrupted him.
No, you don't understand.
His voice was icy.
You decided your happiness was more important than Mom's dignity, more important than our family memories, more important than looking your children in the eye without shame. Tyler, son.
Brad tried to take his hand, but Tyler pulled away.
Don't call me son.
He stood up from the table.
Not today.
Emma followed suit.
I need some air.
Her voice quivered.
Mom, are you coming?
I shook my head. I'll join you in a minute, dear. I need to finish this conversation with your father. When the children stepped out onto the restaurant's terrace, Brad and I were left alone at the table, laden with unfinished meals and half-empty glasses. Around us, life continued. Waiters scurried between tables, couples laughed, families celebrated special moments. We sat in a bubble of silence stretched between us like a chasm.
How long have you known?
Brad finally asked. Long enough. I dabbed my lips with a napkin. When a man who always came home for dinner starts staying late at work, when his phone is always face down, when he showers immediately after coming home, it doesn't take a rocket science degree to put 2 and 2 together.
I was going to tell you.
He dropped his gaze.
After the birthday.
How noble of you. I couldn't help the sarcasm. Wait until I blow out the candles before telling me you've blown up our marriage.
Our marriage was destroyed long before Nicole, he snapped. We've lived like roommates for years.
Really? I leaned closer. And when did you come to me to talk about it? When did you suggest counseling? Therapy? Anything before jumping into bed with a woman 15 years younger? Brad flinched.
I didn't want it to happen like this.
No, you just wanted me to quietly accept the fact you're selling the house where I raised our kids for your new sweetheart's ready-made family. I shook my head. You didn't even consider that the house might be important to me, did you? To you, it's just an asset to liquidate.
Martha, we can settle this civilly.
He attempted to regain control of the situation.
Split the proceeds from the sale evenly.
No, Brad, I interrupted him. The house isn't being sold. It's mine.
You can check the documents again if you don't believe me. It's illegal. He lowered his voice, leaning toward me. I'll sue. Go ahead. I smiled. Explain to the judge how you signed property transfer papers without reading them, how you plan to sell our family home without my consent, how you cheated on your wife with a woman young enough to be your daughter. I'm sure it'll make a great impression. Brad's phone vibrated again. He glanced at the screen and turned even paler. I saw the name Nicole and the beginning of a message. Brad, we need to decide on the house today. You're better off answering, I said calmly. She's clearly anxious. Probably already called the realtor to agree on the moving date. Brad hesitated, looking from the phone to me. I can't talk now. He rejected the call. Why not? Are you afraid she'll hear the truth? I leaned closer. That you can't buy her the dream home because your wife turned out not to be as foolish as you thought? Martha, please. His voice became almost pleading. Let's discuss this alone, like adults. Like adults? I laughed, but there was no joy in my laughter. Adults don't destroy a 23-year marriage with a message at a birthday dinner. Adults don't cheat, manipulate, and steal. I never stole, he began, but I interrupted. And how else to call using our joint funds to support another woman and her kids? I raised my voice. You were paying for her son's private school while Tyler was taking out student loans for grad school. You were paying for her family vacations while telling me we couldn't afford a trip this year. Now it wasn't just neighboring tables watching us. The whole restaurant was silent, observing the unfolding drama. I noticed the maitre d' approaching our table with a concerned expression. Is everything okay? He asked, his gaze shifting from me to Brad and back. Just a family discussion. Brad forced a smile. Sorry for the disturbance. Actually, we're leaving. I rose, smoothing my dress. It was a lovely evening, but I'm afraid my birthday is officially over. I took my purse and headed for the exit, where Tyler and Emma waited on the terrace. Brad caught up with me at the door, grabbing my elbow. Where are you going? He asked, his face twisted with anger and fear. We're not finished. Oh, we're very finished, Brad. I gently freed my arm. 23 years ago, I married a man I respected and trusted. That man is gone. In his place is a coward who can't even honestly admit his mistakes. What do you want from me? His voice quivered. Nothing. I smiled with sadness. Absolutely nothing. You can keep anything from the house. Except the house itself, of course. I'm sure Nicole will help you choose new furniture for your love nest when you find one. You can't just throw me out of my own home. Not yours, Brad. Mine. I took the keys out of my purse. The locks will be changed by morning. You can pick up your things tomorrow when I'm at work. I'll leave a list of what you're allowed to take on the kitchen counter. This is illegal! His face flushed with rage. Then sue me. I shrugged. I'm sure the judge will be very interested to hear how you plan to secretly sell our family home to buy a new one for your mistress. I turned to leave, but stopped and looked back. By the way, happy birthday to me. Thanks for the unforgettable gift. On the night when the kids had gone to sleep in their old rooms, I sat on the back porch, watching the stars and sipping wine from the bottle Emma insisted we open. A real celebration, just for the three of us. Brad's phone hadn't stopped vibrating with messages and calls all evening until I finally turned it off. A strange sense of peace enveloped me. Yes, my marriage was destroyed. Yes, my life had changed irrevocably, but for the first time in many months, I wasn't pretending. I wasn't ignoring Brad's late returns, his secret calls, his lies.
The truth, however painful, always liberates. Morning brought a new wave of reality. I woke up early, instinctively reaching for Brad's place in bed before remembering the events of the previous evening. His side of the bed was cold and untouched, like many nights before, except now the reason for his absence was clear to everyone. I went downstairs to the kitchen and found Tyler making breakfast.
"Good morning, Mom,"
he smiled, flipping pancakes on the griddle.
"Hope you don't mind me taking over your kitchen."
Of course not. I kissed his cheek, pouring myself a coffee. When did my son learn to cook?
When he realized takeout would bankrupt him faster than student loans.
He chuckled.
"How are you?"
I thought for a moment. Honestly, not sure. Angry, sad, relieved, all at once.
"That's normal."
He nodded, setting out pancakes on plates.
"I'd worry if you said you were perfectly okay."
Emma joined us, her eyes swollen from crying.
"I couldn't sleep all night,"
she admitted, slumping into a chair. Kept thinking about Dad and that. Nicole. How long has this been going on? How could he do this to you, Mom? People change. I shrugged, trying to appear stronger than I felt. Sometimes they become versions of themselves we don't recognize. But 23 years of marriage. Emma shook her head. How can you just throw all that away? Your father believes he deserves a second chance at happiness. I carefully chose my words. And you know what? Maybe he's right. Just a pity he didn't have the courage to be honest from the start.
"You're too generous,"
Tyler grumbled.
"In your place, I'd be changing the locks already."
"Oh, I'm changing the locks," I smiled, sipping coffee. "The locksmith will be here in an hour." We ate breakfast together, discussing plans for the future. Tyler offered to stay for a few days to make sure Dad doesn't pull anything else. Emma decided to delay returning to Universita until Monday. "Are you sure you'll be okay when we leave?" she asked, squeezing my hand. "Absolutely," I nodded. "I've got a job, friends, a good lawyer, and a house that's entirely mine. I'll be fine." "And Dad?" Emma looked smaller, younger, as if she became a child again who doesn't understand why adults can't just make up. "Dad will live his life," I answered gently. "With Nicole and her kids. That's his choice."
"He wanted to sell our home."
Tyler shook his head.
"The house we grew up in, where our heights are marked on the kitchen wall, where my hamster Bucky is buried, where we celebrated every Christmas."
"He didn't think of it like that," I sighed. "To him, it's just property to convert into money for a new life." "How did you find out?" Emma suddenly asked. "About Nicole. About his plans to sell the house. About all of it." I put down my coffee cup, gathering my thoughts. The story I was about to tell wasn't easy. It began with intuition, those tiny shifts in Brad's behavior that only a woman who has spent the majority of her adult life with a man could notice. "It started in March," I began. "Such a typical Tuesday when everything began to unravel, although I didn't know it then." And I told them everything about Brad's late returns, his excuses, the strange phone calls, about how I found photos on his phone, Nicole and her kids laughing with Brad in the park, at cafes, on the beach, about the overheard conversation when Brad discussed with a realtor the perfect family home in an area we never planned to live. I didn't want to believe, I admitted, even when the evidence was right in front of me, because believing meant admitting that 23 years of my life were based on a lie. "Not a lie," Tyler gently contradicted. "Dad loved you. Loved us. He just broke somewhere along the way." When did you decide to transfer the house to your name? Emma asked, her eyes widened with admiration. It was brilliant, Mom. When I found the mortgage pre-approval documents. I smiled, recalling the moment of clarity. Brad left them in his home office. A new home, 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, in a district with excellent schools, just like he described yesterday at dinner. Only the application was made 3 months ago, in his name and Nicole Hartman's. He planned to buy a house with her without even divorcing you? Tyler looked shocked. I think he planned to present it as a fait accompli. I nodded. Sell our house, use his half of the money as the down payment for a new home with Nicole, then deal with the divorce. Damn coward, Tyler muttered. Language. I admonished him out of habit, and we all laughed, bitterly, but sincerely. The doorbell interrupted our conversation. I tensed, expecting it to be Brad coming for his things earlier than I planned. But when Tyler opened the door, there stood the locksmith. Mrs. Davidson, here to change the locks, as agreed. Perfect timing. I stood up to show him the front of the house. While the locksmith changed the locks, my phone rang. Brad's number. I hesitated for a moment, then answered. Hello? Martha. His voice sounded tense, as if he was struggling to control his emotions. I'll come over in an hour to collect my things. As we agreed, I replied neutrally. The list of what you can take is on the kitchen counter. List? He scoffed. You dictate what things of mine I can take? No, Brad, I sighed. I'm specifying which of our shared things you can take. Your personal clothes, your books, your collections, they're all yours. But the furniture we picked together, the kitchenware we got as wedding gifts, family photo albums, they stay. This is ridiculous. He raised his voice. You can't just decide everything unilaterally. That's exactly what you plan to do with our house, I reminded him. Unilaterally. Silence ensued, then Brad sighed. Fine. I'll come with Nicole. She'll help me pack. No. My response was firm. Nicole will not step foot in this house. Martha. No, Brad, I interrupted him. You can do whatever you like with your life. You can love whomever you want. Live wherever you want. Build a new family. But you will not bring your mistress into the house where I raised your children. Not today. Never. This is petty, he grumbled. No, Brad, it's self-respect. I paused. Come alone. You'll have 2 hours to pack your things. Tyler and Emma will be here to help if needed. Tyler and Emma? He sounded surprised. They're still there? Of course. I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. They're supporting their mother after their father announced he's leaving her for another woman. I'm not leaving anyone, he stubbornly repeated. Call it what you will, Brad. We're done with this conversation. I hung up and turned to find Emma standing in the kitchen doorway. Her eyes were red. Is he really bringing her here? She asked quietly. No. I shook my head. He'll come alone. Good, she nodded. Because I don't know if I could hold back if I saw that woman. Emma. I walked over to her, taking her hands. You have to understand something. Nicole isn't the main villain in this story. She didn't destroy our marriage. Your father did, with his decisions and choices. But she knew he was married, Emma protested. She saw photos of our family, knew about Tyler and me. Yes, I nodded. And for that, she bears her share of responsibility. But your father was the one who made the vow to be faithful. The one who lied to all of us. How can you be so rational? Emma shook her head. I'd be raging, yelling, throwing things.
Oh, trust me, there was a moment when I wanted to burn all his suits in the backyard. I weakly smiled. But then I realized anger would only drain me. I needed a clear head to protect myself. You're amazing, Emma hugged me. And Dad's an idiot for not appreciating it. 2 hours later, a familiar silver sedan blocked the driveway. We sat in the living room, ready for his arrival. The locksmith had already finished changing the locks and left, handing me 3 sets of new keys. When the doorbell rang, Tyler rose to answer it. I heard their muted conversation in the hallway, tense but polite. Then Brad appeared in the living room doorway, looking unsure and out of place in the house that had been his home for more than 2 decades. Martha, he nodded to me. Emma.
Hi, Dad, Emma replied quietly.
The list is on the kitchen counter, as I said. I gestured toward the kitchen. We'll be here if you need help. Thank you. He seemed surprised by my calm tone.
I'll start with the closet, I guess. For the next hour and a half, we listened to him moving around the house, gathering his belongings. Footsteps upstairs, the rustle of cardboard boxes, the sound of drawers opening and closing. Emma sat beside me on the couch, her head on my shoulder, while Tyler nervously flipped through a magazine, not reading a single word. It's strange, Emma whispered. Hearing Dad pack his things to leave forever. I know. I stroked her hair. But it doesn't mean he's leaving your life. He's still your father. But nothing will ever be the same, she sighed. No, I agreed. It won't. When Brad came down with the first batch of boxes, Tyler silently stood up to help him carry them to the car. It was a small gesture, but I saw Brad's face soften with gratitude. Despite all his mistakes, he loved his kids, and their estrangement hurt him. After several trips, Brad stopped in the living room doorway, awkwardly shifting from foot to foot.
I've, finished with clothes and personal items, he said. But there are a few things not on your list. My father's watch, for instance.
Of course, take it, I nodded. It was always yours.
And photos of the kids? Can I take a few?
This request hit me harder than I anticipated. Photos of our children, Tyler taking his first steps, Emma at her graduation, our family vacations and holidays. He wanted to take pieces of our shared history into his new life. Yes, I said after a pause. You can take copies. The originals stay here.
Thank you.
He lowered his eyes.
I don't want to lose everything. You already made your choice, Brad.
My voice was quiet but firm.
Now, you live with its consequences.
He nodded, accepting my words without argument, for perhaps the first time in many years.
Can I talk to the kids alone, before leaving?
He asked. I glanced at Tyler and Emma, leaving the decision up to them.
Okay,
Tyler reluctantly agreed.
We can talk in the kitchen.
I went out into the garden, giving them space to talk. Standing among my flowers, I took deep breaths of the cool spring air. Life went on. The roses I planted last fall were already budding. The hydrangea bush Brad and I bought on our 15th anniversary was full of new shoots. Nature doesn't pause for human tragedies. Through the kitchen window, I saw Brad talking to our children. His shoulders were hunched, his face serious. Tyler stood with arms crossed, his stance defensive but listening. Emma sat at the table, her fingers nervously twisting a napkin. I couldn't hear their conversation, but I could see the emotions on their faces: pain, confusion, attempts to understand. When I returned to the house, Brad was about to leave. His eyes were red, as if fighting back tears.
"I've taken everything," he said quietly. "I left the keys on the console table."
"They no longer fit," I gently reminded him. "The locks were changed this morning."
"Of course."
He nodded, as if he'd just remembered.
"Martha,
He paused, as if unsure what to say. What words could fix what he did? What apologies could heal the wounds of betrayal? "Good luck, Brad," I said sincerely. "I hope you find what you're looking for." He looked at me for a long time, as if memorizing my face, then nodded, turned, and left the house that was no longer his home. When the door closed behind him, Emma clung to me, quietly sobbing. "He said he loves us," she whispered. "That he never wanted to hurt us." "I know," I held her. "And I believe he truly thinks so."
He asked if we'll ever be able to forgive him,
Tyler added, his voice hoarse with emotion. "What did you tell him?" I asked cautiously.
"That we need time."
Tyler shrugged.
"A lot of time."
"That's fair," I nodded. "Forgiveness can't be rushed. It comes when it comes, if it comes at all." We stood in the hallway, tightly embracing each other, three people whose world had just radically changed. But we were together. We were family. And somehow, we would manage. The following weeks passed in a blur. Tyler returned to Chicago to his consulting job, but called every evening to check on how I was holding up. Emma stayed a few more days, helping me sort through the things Brad left behind and rearrange the house so it no longer reminded me of him at every turn. We repainted the bedroom from gray-blue, his favorite color, to soft lavender. Rearranged the living room furniture, making it brighter and more open. Replaced the heavy dining room curtains with light linen drapes. Small changes that helped me feel this is now my house, not ours. When Emma finally left for university, I was alone in the big house, full of memories. The first night was the hardest. I lay in bed, listening to the silence, realizing I would always sleep alone now. There would be no more sound of Brad brushing his teeth in the bathroom, his quiet breathing next to me in sleep, his hand reaching for mine in the dark. But each day got a little easier. I found a rhythm in my new life. Solo breakfasts with a book instead of tense silence. Evenings with friends instead of waiting for Brad to deign to come home. I signed up for painting classes, something I'd always wanted to do but postponed because of family obligations. Clayton Richards, my lawyer, became an unexpected source of support. He not only protected my interests in the divorce process, but also became a kind of friend who understood what I was going through.
"You're handling it better than most of my clients,"
he said once, as we reviewed court documents. "Most people either sink into depression or burn with a desire for revenge." "Oh, I've thought about revenge," I confessed with a crooked smile. But then I realized the best revenge is to live well.
"Wise woman,"
he nodded, and something in his gaze made me feel seen for the first time in a long while. Brad didn't disappear from my life entirely, of course. There were legal meetings, property division discussions, occasional encounters in town. Each time I saw him, he seemed a little more worn, a little less sure than the man I'd known for 23 years. From Tyler, I learned that Nicole and Brad had moved into an apartment in a different part of town, far less luxurious than the house they planned to buy with the money from selling our family home. Apparently, Nicole was unhappy with this compromise, and their relationship was becoming strained.
She's constantly pressuring him about money, Tyler told me after a rare lunch with his father. Her kids go to private school, she has expensive tastes, and Dad's salary now has to support not only a new girlfriend, but also 3 other people's kids. I'm not gloating, I said, though a part of me, a small vengeful part, did feel satisfaction knowing Brad had to face the realities of his choices. I know, Tyler squeezed my hand. You're better than that. That's why I'm so proud of you, Mom. June brought an unexpected turn of events. A phone call on a Sunday morning while I was making myself a late breakfast. Martha? Brad's voice sounded strange, tense, almost desperate. I need to talk to you. In person. About what? I was cautious. Our personal conversations over the last few months had been minimal and strictly practical. Not over the phone, he insisted. Can we meet? In the park, maybe? On neutral ground. I agreed, more out of curiosity than a desire to see him. We arranged to meet at the city park in an hour, by the duck pond where we once walked hand in hand, dreaming of a future that now seemed to belong to other people. Brad was already waiting, sitting on a bench when I arrived. He looked worn. His typically impeccable clothes were rumpled, dark circles lay under his eyes. He had clearly lost weight. Thanks for coming, he said, standing up. I know you have no reason to grant me favors. What happened, Brad? I sat on the bench, leaving enough space between us. You look terrible. He gave a bitter smile. Feel it too. He took a deep breath. Nicole left me, took the kids, and went back to her ex-husband. I blinked, trying to process this news. I'm sorry, I said, surprised to find that I meant it. No, not sorry. He shook his head. And shouldn't be. I deserve it. What happened? Reality, he sighed. Turns out, supporting 3 kids and a woman with a taste for luxury is harder than I thought. Nicole, she expected a certain lifestyle. The house I promised, vacation twice a year, private schools. When it became clear I couldn't deliver all that in the short term, she found someone who could. I finished for him. Somewhat. He nodded. Her ex-husband got promoted. New house. Ready to give the family a second chance. He spoke the last words with a bitterness that cut. And you called me here to tell this news? I raised an eyebrow. Thought I'd gloat? No. He shook his head. I called to apologize. To really apologize. Not the half-truths and excuses I offered before. He turned to me, his eyes filled with genuine remorse. Martha, I destroyed the best thing I've ever had in life. I betrayed the woman who stood by me through all the highs and lows. I hurt my kids. And all for what? The illusion that I could start over? That I'm still young and entitled to a new beginning? I remained silent, unsure what to say. Part of me wanted to comfort him, a reflex, deeply ingrained over 2 decades of marriage. Another part wanted to remind him he was reaping what he sowed. I'm not asking you to take me back, he quickly added, seeing my silence. I know that's gone forever. I wanted you to know that I realize my mistake, and that I will regret it for the rest of my days. Thank you for the apology, I said eventually. I appreciate it, but it doesn't change the past. I know, he nodded. I just thought maybe it would help you move forward. Know the problem was always me, not you. I'm already moving forward, Brad. I stood from the bench. And so should you. I left him sitting alone by the pond, where once we were happy,
But for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel a heaviness in my heart. His apology didn't alter the past, but somehow freed me from the last remnants of doubt, from the ghostly question, what did I do wrong? Life moved forward. My painting lessons became a genuine passion. My friends, who rallied around me following the divorce, grew even closer. Clayton Richards ceased being merely my lawyer and became someone I looked forward to seeing. Tyler and Emma thrived in their adult lives, often coming home on weekends, filling the house with laughter and new stories. They maintained a relationship with their father, though those relationships were now cautious, with new boundaries. Autumn arrived with an unexpected opportunity. A phone call from Clayton asking if I'd like to have dinner, not as client and attorney, more like a date. I hesitated a moment, surprised at how easily the answer came to me. I'd love to, I replied, feeling something new and hopeful bloom in my chest. Not the ghostly passion of a midlife crisis, but a calm, mature possibility of something real. Great. The relief in his voice was almost tangible. 7 o'clock? 7 will be perfect. When I hung up, I found myself smiling into space. A year ago, I thought my life was over. That at 45, I was too old for new beginnings, for new love, for anything beyond the quiet fading of a marriage long since reduced to a shell. How wrong I was. I stood and went inside, a house now fully mine, feeling every step carrying me further from the woman who sat in that restaurant listening to her husband dismantle their marriage, and closer to the woman I could become. A woman unafraid to be alone, but also unafraid to open herself to new possibilities. That night, I slept peacefully, without dreams of the past or worries about the future, just at peace with myself and the place where I'd ended up. Halfway to something new, with strength and wisdom earned the hard way. In the morning, I received a short message from Brad. Tyler told me about your date with Clayton. I'm happy for you. Truly, I smiled, realizing he genuinely meant it, and that a small part of me was grateful to him, not for the pain he inflicted, but for the liberation that followed it. Sometimes destruction is merely the preparation of soil for something more beautiful meant to grow. In the end, my story wasn't about a woman losing her husband. It was about a woman finding herself. And perhaps that's the story I was meant to be the hero of all along. When I prepared for my date with Clayton on Friday night, I thought of all the twists and turns that led me to this moment. Of pain and betrayal, of tears and rage, of quiet victories and slow healing. And I realized I wouldn't change a thing. Every moment, every decision, every tear brought me here. To a woman looking in the mirror with a peaceful expression, ready not for a second chance or new beginning, but to continue her own story on her own terms. I was Martha Davidson, 45 years old, divorced, mother of 2 grown children, amateur artist, owner of a beautiful home and her own life. And for the first time in a very long time, I was precisely who I wanted to be. A knock at the door heralded Clayton's arrival. I took one last look in the mirror, adjusted my hair, and smiled at my reflection. Onward, I told myself. Your story is just beginning, and I went to open the door to my future. Did you like the story? Write your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next interesting story. See you tomorrow.